YAHOVAH bless you and welcome to the series on 666 and the Harlow Revelation Revealed. We will start with the prophecy portion first and then move on to the interpretation of 666 and the Harlow Revelation. The purpose of this prophecy is to prove the interpretation of 666 and the Harlow Revelation is true. Secondly, it is also proof that the Catholic and Protestant churches are satanic, sadly. And ultimately, 3, it is to unite all Jews, lost 10 tribes of Israel, and Gentiles in truth. The prophecy. In that day when New York and many other cities of the West is nuked by the Muslim League to start the next world war, the useful idiots of the New World Order, the Catholics and Protestants, will proclaim the Muslim League leader as the Antichrist or the Beast of Revelation, and proclaim that the Muslim religion is the Harlow Revelation. So we have these false prophets on the left who will call the coming of the Mahdi, the Muslim League leader, as the Antichrist. Yet the traditional Christians, Catholics and Protestants, ignore the evolution that is being taught in the public schools to their children, which is why the younger generation are becoming more atheistic, socialistic, and embracing homosexuality as an alternative lifestyle. And this is not surprising because they practice satanic holidays we call Christmas, which is a sexual fertility holiday, stating that Jesus was born on December 25th when in fact he was never born on December 25th. But anyways, we could read about the Christmas tree in Jeremiah 10, verses 2-4. This is what YAHOVAH says: "Do not learn the ways of the nations, for the customs of the peoples are worthless. They cut a tree out of the forest, they adorn it with silver and gold, and they fasten it with hammer and nails." YAHOVAH knew that this Christmas tradition, which was practiced in Jeremiah's time, would be practiced in our time in the last days, which is why the pro-abortion politicians celebrate Christmas as well. We have Obama and his wife under the Christmas tree there, and we have the Clintons in the middle. And of course, they're no way going to talk about Jesus because they are the most leftist, liberal, atheistic people you can ever meet in the United States. And we have a picture of Richard Dawkins, who is not a politician, but this militant atheist is slow and bold, standing right beside a Christmas tree with presents right under it, because he knows full well Christmas has nothing to do with Jesus and Christianity, that it is purely a pagan origin, pagan practice, which is why he is a militant atheist, because he's calling out on the Christians, saying they are contradictory, which is why they also celebrate Easter, child sacrificing holiday. We have a statue of Easter, who is known in the East as the goddess of fertility, and is still known in Israel and many Middle Eastern that Easter is a goddess of fertility, and that the Easter bunny is a symbol of fertility. We have more and more people writing papers about the pagan origins of Easter and Christmas. It is becoming more and more widespread, which is why books are coming out exposing the pagan origins of our major holidays. Unfortunately, that this is not enough because the world will still be deceived. The Pope of Rome will do fake miracles, and we could read about this false prophet in Revelation 13:13. He did astounding miracles, even making fire flash down to earth from the sky while everyone was watching. And understand that Revelation is pointing out this one miracle, fire coming down from the sky to the earth, is because those followers, the true followers, know that the Jews also will be deceived by the Pope, who will bring fire from the sky. And why does this miracle deceive them? Because Elijah is the long-awaited prophet that the Jews have been waiting for. And Elijah is famous for what miracle? He is famous for bringing fire from the sky. And we can read this in 1 Kings 18, verses 37-39. But we'll read just this one part. "Then the fire of YAHOVAH fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench." So the Pope will become the false Elijah or the false prophet. Unfortunately, this is very bad news for the rest of us, the true followers, because as Elijah commanded the Israelites to kill the false prophets of his day, Satan will subvert this to his own end, command the governments of the world to capture and kill the true servants of Jehovah in our day, in our near future, because they will call us, those who point out that Christmas and Easter are satanic, that Sunday is not the true Sabbath. So we will be labeled as false prophets, and we will be killed. And you can compare 1 Kings 18:40 with Revelation 13:15. But of course, did not Yahshua say Elijah already came again? And we could read this in Matthew 17. The disciples asked him, "Why then do the teachers of the law say that Elijah must come first?" Jesus replied, "To be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands." Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. People don't understand Jesus was relaying a secret message to his true followers, because Jews at that time was waiting for Elijah, and they still do today, because they did not recognize that John the Baptist was Elijah. So this secret message was relayed to us true followers. That's why us true followers know that the Jews will accept a false Messiah. And we read this in John 5, verses 43-47. "I have come in my Father's name, and you do not accept me, but if someone else comes in his own name, you will accept him." So Jesus goes on to state that Moses will accuse him for accepting a false Messiah as well, because they rejected the true Messiah, whom we know as Jesus or Yahshua, more appropriately, Yahshua. This is why Yahshua repeats Daniel's abomination of desolation prophecy, because it was to convey a secret message to his true followers that the Jews will accept a false Messiah. Read Matthew 24, verses 15-20 very carefully. What you basically read is that the Jews will not flee Jerusalem until they witness the abomination of desolation takes place. And of course, the question no one asks is, why aren't they told to leave before the abomination of desolation? Why aren't they told to leave when the Antichrist comes into Israel and just before into Jerusalem? Why tell them to flee after the abomination of desolation? It's because Yahshua knew they would accept a false Messiah. Unfortunately, only some Jews will flee to the wilderness. They will finally wake up and realize that they were deceived by the Pope by this false fire miracle and by the false Messiah who shall have destroyed their mortal enemies, the Muslim League and the Muslim leader. And we read about them in Revelation 12:6. Specifically, the woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God, where she might be taken care of for 1260 days. And we know this is Judah because she is the crown of 12 stars and stands on the moon and gives birth to the Messiah. It is not the church, it is Judah. And this is the Jews who realize that they were deceived and run out and reject the New World Order. Unfortunately, again, this is bad news for the rest of us, the true followers, because in Revelation 12:17, then the dragon was raged at the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commandments and hold fast their testimony about Jesus. So who is the real Antichrist or beast? We go to Daniel 11, verses 40-45, which is a prophecy of our near future. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, the king of the north. And of course, the king of the south is the Muslim League, and they will attack him by nuclear weapons. But the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, horsemen, and with many ships, and he shall enter the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. He will also invade the beautiful land. Many countries will fall, but Moab, Edom, and the leaders of Ammon will be delivered from his hand. He will extend his power over many countries. Egypt will not escape. He will gain control of the treasures of gold and silver and all the riches of Egypt, with the Libyans and Cushites in submission. But reports from the east and north will alarm him, and he will set out in a great rage to destroy and annihilate many. He will pitch his royal tents between the seas at the beautiful holy mountain. He will come to his end, and no one will help him. So understand, the king of the south, who will start the next world war by nuclear weapons, will be defeated ultimately by the New World Order. That is why he's not the Antichrist or the beast of Revelation. He is a Antichrist, but not the Antichrist. And that's why Egypt and Libya is mentioned in Daniel 11, 40-45, because we are to know that the Muslim League is going to be destroyed and conquered by the New World Order. Yes, they will start the next world war, but it will be the NW who will end it by defeating them. Which is why, for years, the leaders of the West has been calling out for a New World Order. George Bush Sr. here in September 11th, 1990, called for a New World Order, along with Brown and Cameron later on, who calls out for a New World Order to save the earth. They, of course, of the European Union, who has a poster modeled after Tower of Babel, which is not surprising. Of course, what are we talking about when we talk about the New World Order? Well, H.G. Wells knew about it because it goes back then and even further, but he states it is a system of the nationalist individualism that has to go. We are living in the end of the sovereign states and the great struggle to evoke a westernized world socialism. Contemporary governments may vanish, countless people will hate the New World Order and will die protesting against it. And here is the cover of his book that he wrote about the New World Order. So that is why China has been socialized along with the European nations, and that is why the United States is being socialized along with Central and South American nations. The whole world is becoming socialized. And of course, we have to ask, who is sitting on top of this pyramid of power, this New World Order? It is the monarchies and the bankers of the New World Order. They're trying to create a new feudalist system, according to some people, or a socialist system. But they are the puppet masters, the Windsor family of England, along with the other monarchies of Europe, with the Rothschild banking cartel. And of course, this is his famous quote about, it's whoever controls the money supply that really controls the government. But we have to ask ourselves, who are the Windsor family? Well, they were a German royal family, used to be called Saxe, Coburg, and Gotha, but they changed it to Windsor because of the anti-German sentiment in the British Empire during World War I. And why is this relevant? Because they are related to Ernest II, Duke of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg, who was, of course, famous for helping Adam Weishaupt, who was the creator of the Order of the Illuminati. And what is the Order of the Illuminati? Well, in Wikipedia on Adam Weishaupt and the Order of the Illuminati, John Robertson, a professor of Edinburgh University in Scotland, was offered Illuminati membership, but he refused and subsequently wrote a book called Proof of a Conspiracy. And he states, an association has been formed for the express purpose of rooting out all the religious establishments, which is why evolution is being taught in schools by Richard Dawkins. And furthermore, he says, overturning all existing governments, the leaders would rule the world with uncontrollable power, while all the rest would be employed as tools of the ambition of their unknown superiors. And this book was given to George Washington, which is why he wrote, it was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati and principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is morally truly satisfied of this fact than I am. So even George Washington, the first president of the United States, knew about the creation of the New World Order. And again, how do you start taking over nations? By controlling the money. And by how do you control the money? You create central banks, which are private institutions. And President Jackson, Andrew Jackson, knew about this. This is why he declared war on central banks. Here is his first quote. He says, the bold effort the present central bank had made to control the government are but premonitions of the fate that wait the American people, should they be deluded into perpetuation of this institution or the establishment of another like it. Unfortunately, though, the Federal Reserve did come about, another central banking system at the turn of the century, of the 20th century. And he also quotes, I am one of those who do not believe that a national debt is a national blessing, which is, of course, ludicrous. But anyways, he continues, but rather a curse to a republic, inasmuch as it is calculated to raise an amount of administration and moneyed aristocracy dangerous to the liberties of the country. And he said, yes, the central banks creates a moneyed aristocracy, which we see today. It is the rich getting richer, the corporations getting bigger, and the poor and the money and the middle class getting poorer. This is why he is famous for his quoting, calling the central bankers a den of vipers and thieves. And lastly, he is quoted as saying, it is to be regretted that the rich and powerful too often bend the axe of government to their selfish purposes. Which is why we have to ask, why is Jackson on the $20 bill? A central banking note with his picture big printed right on top of the $20 bill. Is it to honor or dishonor him? Well, he states, if the people only understood the rank injustice of our money and banking system, there would be a revolution by morning. And we have to thank the traditional Catholics and Protestants for not teaching about the evils of usury, because they say the laws of YAHOVAH has been nailed to the cross. This is why they've been deceived and been conquered by the monarchies and bankers of Central Europe, which is why they will place in Jerusalem the King of the North as the Messiah, the false Messiah, and he shall declare himself to be God and exalt himself. And this is why traditional Christianity is evil and satanic. Thanks to them, we will see this man as the Antichrist.